What will the seating plan look like? Will my kids need to wear a mask? What kinds of extra precautions are in place to protect my children, and what restrictions am I looking at? These are some of the questions likely going through many parents' minds right now, on top of everything else, as they prepare to send their kids back to school in just a few weeks. To answer a few of these questions, I stopped in at Hammond Transportation in Bracebridge, one of the major busing providers for schools in Muskoka, to get an idea of what they're doing to prepare. Greg Hammond with the organization says there's a lot of planning on their side.
In many respects, it's going to be a normal return to busing. Nobody knows at this point how many kids are going to be on the buses. That depends on enrollment. But once that is completed, then the route list will be designed, and the busing will be very similar to what it normally was pre-COVID. Once we, obviously there's going to be a number of modifications that make it safe for all of the kids and all of the drivers and everybody involved. So most obvious to everybody will be masks. The driver will be wearing a mask. The students will be wearing a mask. Certainly it's mandatory for kids grade 4 and up. And we would like to encourage young parents of younger children to make sure that their kids are wearing a mask, because that provides some certainty to the drivers as well as some comfort to the parents. So I would hope to see everybody on the bus wearing a mask, but it will be mandatory for the older grades 4 and up.
Hammond says there is also special sanitizing processes being put in place, which are on top of the cleaning buses regularly receive already.
So we're going to be spraying down buses twice a day, especially high touch areas. That's not just a cleaning, that's a sanitization. So that will be happening every day, every bus. So that should provide a level of comfort as well. And the other issue that will be, or the other aspect that will be different than normal years, is that children will be grouped with a seating plan to keep them in cohorts. So, oftentimes our buses carry students from rural areas, and they transport kids to multiple schools on the same bus. So the kids in each school will be seated in the same area of the bus as well. So again, that just helps restrict the contact between the children, and makes it safer for everybody involved.
Meanwhile, local parents are still struggling with the idea of sending their kids to school amid the current situation. Bracebridge parent Jennifer Scott is a single mom and says she's decided to send her young teenage son and preteen daughter back to elementary school, but it wasn't an easy decision.
It's been a bit of weighing sort of what's been going on in the community and sort of in Ontario as a whole, and just trying to figure out what's going to be in the kids' best interest. Around just sort of that school engagement and having teacher presence and being able to kind of ask questions when needed in the moment. And then, also weighing in the health risks and making sure that they're sort of aware, again, of when they go back, it's going to look a little different with the social distancing and washing of hands more often, and sort of that class cohort at this point.
Scott says mask usage might be the one thing that causes issues for her kids.
We're going to see how it goes. If they do, then it may be another reason that I pull them out. The hope is mine are a little bit older, so hopefully they're going to be okay with it. But I know even myself wearing one all day might be a struggle, so I'll just have to go with it and hope that it's okay.
On the opposite end, Jessica Ryan is a mom who's decided e-learning is best for her young son, who would be starting grade 1 this year.
He does have pretty severe asthma. He takes a steroid puffer every day. And just in the chance that it could happen, that he could catch it, I don't want that to happen. And there's a lot of other factors. He has pretty bad eczema. We had a problem even just going to school last year, washing his hands normally, his hands would break out. We had to avoid him playing in the water tables, and I can't even imagine what his hands would be like washing them 10 times a day. Well, they haven't released, exact information on what it's going to look like. All I've read is that it is going to be a little different than what it was in the spring, which is good because, I mean, what we did get in the spring did help, but it wasn't quite enough. Um, I've recently purchased quite a few things off Amazon to help. But I think we'll be all right as long as we stick to a schedule. I think that's the most important thing, and he'll do just fine.
And I recently had an opportunity to chat with MPP Norm Miller regarding the back-to-school plan while he was in for a recording of the Queen's Park Report. The Liberal leader, Stephen Del Duca, is calling for a movement of the start of the school year, much like BC has already done. And this kind of lines up with a lot of the concerns that are being brought forward by parents and teachers right now that this isn't enough time to really get this ready. As much as all this money is great to be spent on these projects, 3 weeks doesn't seem like a great time frame to get these things ready. So, what would your comments be to what the Liberal leader was calling for?
Well, there's 3 weeks now, and I wouldn't, I think the decisions are being made by the Chief Medical Officer of Health. I mean, this whole plan was approved by the Chief Medical Officer of Health. More time, sure, is better, and I wouldn't rule that out if the Chief Medical Officer of Health decided that more time is needed, then I would think the government would take more time. Well, but it's not just been 3 weeks. We've had the whole summer.
Oh, I get it, and my intention is not to pit you against what your government is saying, but 3 weeks now from the time of this new funding being announced, that these projects have to take place, HVAC, other hiring new people. How do we complete these projects within 3 weeks and have these schools ready to go off the ground? For example, TLDSB doesn't even really have a full plan ready yet. They're still waiting. They were waiting to find out how many students were going to be returning. Same thing with the Catholic School Board. The time frame just doesn't seem to match up here. So I just wanted to get your opinion on that.
Yeah, I think that more time is always better, but I'm sure that we're not going to have kids back in school unless we believe it's safe.